Hello and welcome to the inaugural Hello Ladies, Wrestling and Feminism. Or is it Feminism and Wrestling? I don't remember what I put anymore.
But it's interchangeable.
Yes, that. So I am Sabrina Hannon, one of the hosts, and
I am Megan Manley, the other host.
so we are going to be talking today about how we got into wrestling, what we love about it, and what our hopes are for 2022. I forgot what year it was almost since it's the beginning of the year.
It's just been 2020 for 24 months now. It's just all 1 year.
Oh yeah, it's at least throughout. Well, for now, out of like the Thunderdome and whatnot. Yeah. But so Megan, how did you get into wrestling?
I was little. I was in preschool. I used to stay at my aunt and uncle's all the time. And I remember one morning, it was a Saturday morning, and I got up and they were watching TV, and I see these big two dudes on the television being interviewed by Mean Gene.
Oh,
and they have these huge spikes on their shoulders, and they're all in red, and it was Legion of Doom. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys look awesome. And I was like, what's this? And they're like, oh, it's wrestling. And I started watching it with them, and I fell in love. Like Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth especially. I had a huge poster of her on my wall. Like she was like my idol. I got to see them when I was a little kid. I was like obnoxious and 5, screaming to Miss Elizabeth the whole time. And I immediately, it was Legion of Doom that got me into it. Macho Man that kept me.
Okay. Yeah. Your story is much cuter than mine. So I was going to see my grandma at a nursing home, and I don't remember what age I was. This was the first time I ever saw wrestling, and it was WCW that she had playing, and I don't remember who he was facing, but it was Disco Inferno. And I was definitely in middle school because I remember seeing him. And so sorry if you're the only Disco Inferno fan out there, but I saw him. He won the match because he did that he got on the turnbuckle and did his little like disco move. And I was like, this is exactly what I thought wrestling was. This sucks. I hate this. And then a couple of months, maybe a year, I don't know, later, a friend of mine called me on the landline and was just like, hey, because back then, like, I'm sure you did this when you were a kid too, like people would call each other and watch TV together.
Yes. Dating ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. And my friend was just like, hey, you should really tune in. Let's make fun of wrestling. And I was like, okay. So I turned on, it was WWE. And I'll never forget, it was Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, and the Big Show in the ring. Center of the ring doing promos. And I just was like mesmerized immediately. And the only thing I remember from that, like when I tuned back into my friend who was talking was, I was like, who is that woman? And Stephanie McMahon, and she's like, oh, I think that's one of the hoes.
No.
And even then I was like, I don't think that's a hoe. Because it was when Stephanie was more like dressed more conservatively.
Right.
But I was just like, I don't think she's a hoe. And I was right. And then but what really like, I saw the Hardy Boys and Chyna, and I fell in love. I love Chyna.
Yes.
The day she died was one of the worst days of my life.
I honestly cried.
Yeah,
I was heartbroken.
Too. I almost didn't come into work that day because I was working at Penn Foster. I mean, nowhere. Redacted.
It's working at Redacted.
Yeah. Shout out to Cultaholic. But yeah, so I was working there, and somebody that we worked with, Chris Conforti?
Sounds right.
I found out that she died because he tagged me in a Facebook post saying, I wonder if Sabrina Hannon will come into work today because Chyna's dead. That's how I found out. I was like so upset, and had he not said, I wonder if she'll come into work, I wouldn't have come into work. I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry to anyone who had to like talk to me that day.
I mean, a little off topic. I did go home early from work the day Alan Rickman died. So
yeah, that was the same year. Mm-hmm. That was not a good year.
No.
Was that 2016?
Yeah. The year of the Reaper.
Yeah. But yeah, so Chyna and the Hardy Boys are really what sucked me in. Funny enough, I did not like Lita for a little bit.
No,
because I was a Stephanie McMahon fan.
Oh God.
And she happened to be the women's champion, and Lita beat her for it, and I was just like, I don't like this Lita girl.
I was almost the opposite because I could not stand Steph, and I loved Lita.
Yep. Like, I don't know what was going on. I think it's because she was the first woman I saw on it that I was just like, yeah. Also, like, I have always and will always love Triple H and his character. Like, the cerebral assassin, like, his sense of humor is very much so mine, even at a young age, which probably says a lot about how twisted my brain is. But I've always been a Triple H fan.
My sense of humor always went more towards like Edge and Christian, like very,
Oh,
childish.
And Kurt Angle, like that's some of the best stuff right there. Like I love all like when the three of them were doing their thing, and Mick Foley was like just agitating them. It was fantastic.
That was some of my favorite times. My friends and I was the only girl in my neighborhood that was like my age, so it was like me and all these boys, and we used to crowd into my little room. I lived in a little house in a little tiny room, and there'd be like 15 of us every Raw crammed on my bed, on the floor, wherever we can fit, watching Raw. And like that was like that era. So that's an era that's like real special to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone who witnessed like the Attitude Era and like Ruthless Aggression, even, very, very lucky wrestling fans to have experienced that. And yes, I'm horribly jaded because that's when I started watching.
I didn't really watch during Ruthless Aggression. I kind of felt out of wrestling a little bit, like after the WCW, like that whole invasion angle thing happened, and like the draft and the splitting, and I kind of got out of it, and I didn't get back in until my now husband and I moved in together, and I heard him like every night for a week listening to the same segment, which happened to be CM Punk's Pipe Bomb.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, this guy reminds me of like Attitude Era type stuff. Like, he sounds really cool. So I like wandered into the computer room one day and I'm like, what is this? And he showed me. I'm like, okay, I need to watch this again. And
did that fall into the end of the Ruthless Aggression? Because it wasn't PG yet.
No.
Is there something in between? I don't think so.
I don't know. It was 2012, right? Or the end of 2011, something around there. Yeah. Because we moved in together November of 2011, so it had to be like that.
Yeah.
That might be the end of Ruthless, right?
Yeah, because to be fair, it's the beginning of Ruthless Aggression. I like when the big, like, I remember the first time I ever saw John Cena, like, when he came out to challenge Kurt Angle, like, him walking down that ramp, I went, like, whoa, this guy is going to be someone. And the same thing with Randy Orton, and it wasn't just because they were both crazy attractive.
No, I missed the rise of Cena. I missed like all the Orton stuff. I missed like Batista. Like that's all stuff that I caught up on later after I got back into it, but I wasn't really watching wrestling then.
The first show I ever saw, so I also got into wrestling with my dad. I'm the youngest of 7 children. And like there's an 18-year age gap between me and my oldest sister. So, but I'm the only one that likes wrestling, and my dad liked it too. So it was great because it was something that we could share together that nobody else got any part of. So I got like one-on-one time with my dad, nice. Which I have divorced parents and my mom had custody of me. So like, primary custody? Yeah. And I remember he would come over to the house, we'd get the pay-per-view, and we'd eat a pizza, which was against his, like, he wasn't supposed to be eating pizza.
Like his dietary restrictions.
Yeah. And then, like, we'd watch a pay-per-view, which was really, really fucking awkward with the bra and panty matches.
Oh, God.
I could have lived without that. I can't tell you how many times where I was like, I'm going to go make a sandwich. I've just eaten a pizza. I'm just gonna go look at the wall. And it sucked because I liked the storylines.
Just not.
I didn't want to see like women ripping each other's clothes off though.
Yeah.
With my dad. Like I think I was 13, 14 at the time. Like, no.
Yeah, it would be really awkward as, like a 14-year-old girl and you're watching wrestling and your parents walk in and like that's going on. And it's
right.
Like,
what kind of weird porn are you watching?
I don't know what to tell you, Ma. Like, this is wrestling.
Yeah. Although I remember also once my mom had some sort of surgery, like on her, I think it was her carpal tunnel surgery. And I was watching wrestling with my uncle, my dad's brother, and my mom hated wrestling. She hated that I loved it. She got behind my love of China because prior to me finding China, I had terrible self-esteem. Not that it was like great after that, but like at least there was some thing. but she got me like weird things. Like I have a China bowling ball that is undrilled, like just this gigantic ball that
Oh my God.
I have nowhere to put because that's heavy. So it's not like I can put it in like a glass display case.
Right.
But I still have it. So I mean, there's that. But anyway, I think a guy did a Hurricane Rana. It must have been Rey Mysterio. But I just remember my mom being like, did that guy just put his crotch in another guy's face? And just like laughing hysterically.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And I was like, yeah, that is what happened. I will never understand why wrestling does not take advantage of like the population, specifically of like gay men, because like there's half naked dudes oiling themselves up, most of them hairless, like,
and all over each other.
all over each other. Like, come on. I think like AEW is more positive about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than like Kenny Omega and why can't I think of his name? Ibushi?
Yeah, Ibushi.
Ibushi. What is his first name?
Kota.
There we go. They're and being the Golden Lovers, not in America. Like
No, that wouldn't have.
There's nothing here, and like wrestling is very much so like a reflection of our society, which is why like right now is the best time to be a female wrestling fan, especially a feminist. Which is what I keep telling all of my feminist friends, trying to like lure them in, because they're all like, oh, I watched that when I was a kid with my brother or something. I'm like, well, watch it now.
And all they remember is like bra and panty matches. And,
And every time they say that, I send them like one of the 4 horsewomen in their matches. And I'm like, well, look at this. Does this look like, or I'll have them watch the NXT, not the last one, but the NXT War Games matches.
Oh, yeah.
They're game changers.
A match that I would like highly recommend to anybody would be the Sasha and Bailey, the Iron Woman match. That is one of my favorite women's matches of all time.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
It's fantastic. And like
Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. Oh my goodness. Or even this last one with the Bunny and Penelope Ford and
not if you're bad with blood.
No, yeah, that's true. If you're squeamish, no, but
so that was the one thing, because I am squeamish. I was so glad. Part of me was really glad when they went to the PG era. Don't kill me. Because I can't take all that blood. Like, I really can't. And I still have in my mind the Chris Jericho and that psychopath with the...
Oh, yeah. My mind is blanking right now, too.
The, like, King of the Deathmatch guy.
I have it right here and it won't come.
Yeah. But him and the pizza cutter.
Nick Gage.
Yeah. I was thinking Dave something, so you're much closer than I was. Like, I will remember that. That'll probably, as I'm dying, that'll be my last thought.
I didn't look. I can take blood to, like, a certain extent, but when the pizza cutter came out, I was like, all right, I'm out. And I just, like, listened to the rest of the match.
I'm now afraid of my own pizza cutter. Like, I am now terrified of it.
It's going to come to life and just start.
Well, I'm just like, if it does that, just, like, it's going to cut my finger off. Like, that's not off, but, like...
It'll be dangling.
Yeah. Like, I have cut like a piece of my thumb off before. So that's also why I'm a little... I did not get sick when I saw it. I also, however, as soon as I realized what was going on, I put my hand underwater and yelled for my roommate at the time. I was like, I need help.
I would have passed out.
Assistance. And I was like, don't tell me about what you see, but I need assistance. I didn't need stitches, but, well, yeah, you can still see on my finger where, like, a piece of it's gone.
Ugh.
So if you're ever slicing vegetables on a mandolin, there's a reason that they have those covers, and you should use them.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not terrible. Like, I'm okay with the blood. I can't watch the act of it, like, I can watch the bleeding after. I can't watch the act of being, like if thumbtacks come out, I'm done.
I can deal with, like, watching thumbtacks, but, like, as you get older, right, and you're watching this stuff, if you've ever fallen or you had something sharp go into your foot or anything like that, you feel it, and you're just like, oh, ow. Why? So wrestling changes a little bit as you get old. Like, not just that, you know, that, like, there's predetermined outcomes, and Nikki ASH isn't actually a superhero, or like whatever it is, or
Alexa's doll isn't actually alive.
yes, or Chris Statlander isn't an alien. Things like that. Although I do have to say, if you have a child or if you yourself got one of those Alexa Bliss dolls, please do what I did, which is if you're having a guest over, especially if they're not a wrestling fan, just creep that into the bed with the lights off, so when they turn it on, they scream.
I mean, I'm a wrestling fan. If I saw that just in my bed, I'd probably scream too.
I mean, she's like right over there looking at us, so
she's watching this whole podcast. I don't like it.
It's extra special. Well, the best part is my one cat, Dobby, like ripped at her head a little bit. So I came in the one day and her hair was just matted to her head on the one side, and I was like, what the hell? Because I had no explanation for it. Dobby wasn't doing it at the time. I was like,
she's alive.
Great, I got the cursed doll.
She was trying to fix her hair for you.
Right? Like, I figured something weird, like a cat happened to it, but it wasn't until later after I fixed it and I saw Dobby go over to her. I was like, no. I hadn't yet pulled my trick.
She'll eat you in your sleep. Leave it alone.
Right? Or, I'll have to take you to the vet because all that hair got stuck in your... Ugh. Cats. They're super fun.
I mean, on a real note, I hate that gimmick. Like, I hate it with everything in me.
I would really have appreciated it if it was played like she was just nuts, and that it wasn't a supernatural component to it. Because I love Alexa Bliss. I think, like, she could have made that work. And, like, if it wasn't for that damn, like, tab in her mouth.
Oh, God,
like,
that you saw it. You could see it. And, like...
Which I get it. That thing had to taste horrible. Like, because my thought is break it in half and put it under your tongue. Or something. Not just... But it's easy for us to say, we're not in front of all these people trying to...
Right.
Have an Alka-Seltzer tab in your mouth. Like, that just sounds... Ugh.
I mean, there kind of was no purpose to it. She could still freak out without foaming at the mouth. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Yeah, but I'm not a fan. Like, some people can pull off the supernatural and spooky stuff. Like, Malachi Black's a good example. He's really good at it. And obviously, Undertaker. Like,
I think with Malachi Black, though, you have an instance of it's not so much magic as it is creepy.
Yeah, and like cult-like almost.
Yeah, you have to really go more that way. And I think especially like anyone who knows somewhat of his background, like with everything that he went through with like his father was in a cult. So he has a really good grasp on how to do that. And it plays so well. And he has such a unique look too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that a female wrestler could not do that, but I think it's more important to lean more creepy with it.
And not sexy schoolgirl where they're trying to make her like a 13-year-old, but also it's creepy for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good. Mm-hmm. And people don't like it, and I don't know why they're still, like, I really thought it would be gone when she came back, and then... Oh, that segment last night. It was one of the only ones that I caught last night on Raw, and oh boy.
Yeah. I wish, like, again, I just wish it was more... less magic-y. Like, WWE has backpedaled before. They could do it again.
Yeah.
Because I love Alexa Bliss. She has a lot of talent, and I don't think it's... And to be fair, because they canned Bray... Or Ray. Yeah, that's his name now. Ray Wyatt.
Ray Riot.
Ray Riot.
Ruby's brother.
Yeah. There you go. There's your new gimmick. Like, doing that, like, her gimmick could have worked with Bray. Mm-hmm. Not that, but, like, as soon as they got rid of him, people, like, turned on her. Like, she was the one who personally fired him.
And it wasn't her fault.
No.
It was budget cuts.
Yeah. Oh, you know who? Ember Moon. Like, her old gimmick was really good. Mm-hmm. Like, with the red eye and...
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
She had, like, my favorite entrance theme, too.
Mm-hmm.
I adored it.
Yeah, she was another one that... I don't know why. I have a Christmas tree that is full of, like, wrestling ornaments. Mm-hmm. And I swear, anyone that I purchased a little figure of...
Or they canned.
Yeah. With the exception of Finn Balor, and I bought his... they look like little gingerbread, and it was him as the demon. It looks like he's wearing blackface.
Oh, no.
And that's why I was just like, oh, this is going to be worth money someday because, like, this is horrible.
Because it's going to get canceled.
Yeah, like, hard. So I bought one of those, and, like, there were so many of them left over, they sold them the next year.
Wow.
Like, it's definitely one of those things. Like, I watched them go, like, I think I got it for $2 on clearance because I do not pay full price for WWE ornaments.
No.
Ember Moon. The only other one that I have, though, is Naomi, who's still there. And I love her, and they had better not screw with her anymore. I really want to, like, I like what they're doing with her and Sonya, though.
I don't know where it's going. That's the whole thing. Like, we were talking about it last night when we were watching, and I'm just going, I don't understand this whole thing. It's just, okay, Naomi's going to come out and Sonya's just going to bully her, and it's not going anywhere. And it's been the same for months, and I just wish that it would lead somewhere.
Like a slow build is good for some things. Like, I like the build that they're doing with MJF and CM Punk. Mm-hmm. Now, that's how you do a slow build. Like, it can't...
Kenny and Hangman was
a
masterpiece.
Like, Kenny in anything, honestly. Like, that's... He is the master of telling stories long term, because I mean, technically the Golden Lovers thing is still going, and it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, right. They've mentioned him on AEW a few times.
Yeah, which I actually saw Kota Ibushi long before I saw Kenny Omega or even knew who he was necessarily. Mm-hmm. And I understand why Omega was just like drawn to him, because the second you see Ibushi in the ring, you're just like,
yeah.
Whoa.
He's like a real life anime character. Like, that's the best way I can describe him.
Yeah.
He's like a superhero.
He's magic in a bottle. He really is.
Him, Okada, like, there's just so many good New Japan wrestlers.
Yeah. I feel like WWE cleaned them out for a while, but, you know, and then AEW did.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that, like, Shinsuke and AJ Styles are doing well in WWE, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, some people will argue that Shinsuke's not doing well, but he has a title, and, like, they use him.
I honestly think that Nakamura is perfectly happy doing what he's doing. He's wrestled for a long time. Yeah. He's probably towards the end of his career. He's just there making money and enjoying what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like he has, like, a lot of friends. And the stories you hear about Shinsuke and how amazing he is and, like, sweet he is to, like, the other wrestlers... What a good human.
Yeah, he does seem like he's a nice guy.
Yeah. Because was it Kevin Owens that told his story? I don't know. I read so much wrestling stuff now. It's ridiculous. Hence why we're doing this. We both just have so much wrestling knowledge crammed in our brains. And it was so long of us just, like, messaging each other back and forth. And, like, I think we're funny. We should do a podcast.
Had to wait for, like, all the wedding stuff and everything to clear out, and then finally got to do it. It's been almost a year we've been talking about it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like last spring, I remember he asked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it was right around... No. I was like, was it around the election? And I was like, no, that's too long ago.
No.
Too long ago.
No, I'm pretty sure it was, like, the weather was nice. I think I remember that, so I think it was, like, towards spring last year.
Yeah. We live in Pennsylvania, so, like, the weather is...
Not great.
We get all of the seasons, I'll say that.
Sometimes in one day.
Yes. Yes, sometimes in one day. Sometimes, you know, get a little hurricane, get a little tornado, that sort of thing going on.
A flood.
Well, yeah, especially you. Mm-hmm. Anytime I see, like, floods starting to happen, I'm like, are you okay?
The amount of videos I've posted on Facebook of my car getting flooded is unreal.
Yeah. I'm surprised you still get car insurance, honestly.
You know, thankfully, knock on wood, only one time something happened that I needed to use insurance for the flooding.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I'm good at moving my car before it gets too bad.
Yeah, that's good. I had another question. Oh, that's always good. Dead silence.
I think top 5 you wanted to know, didn't you?
Oh, yes, thank you. So, what are your top 5 wrestlers of... Should we do all time or just currently active?
You know, I was thinking about this before I came up here, and this is such a hard question because, like, mm-hmm. I have, like, all time, I have, like, female, I have male, I have now, I have, like, mm-hmm. just in AEW, just in WWE. It's just so hard. I don't even know how to narrow it. Like, I mean, obviously right now it's Kenny Omega, like 100%. I mean,
all 5 spots.
Right? I mean, you know that. I'm obsessed. Close second's probably Okada, to be honest with you. and then I don't know who else to put. Like, I know that they're like definitive top two, and like women, it is Britt Baker and it's Becky. I know people hate on Becky Lynch, but I love her.
Did you see last night? She looked like a modern day Spice Girl, her outfit. I loved it. I'm here for it. I love everything. Like, I love it when wrestlers do like the full character change and everything changes with them. Love everything she's doing right now as Big Time Bex.
I mean, you know my feelings on a lot of WWE stuff right now.
Yeah.
They're not the best.
Yeah.
But Seth and Becky are like killing it. They're living their best lives, and they're
His Joker laugh.
And like him coming out, just the
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, he is killing it right now, and you could tell that they're both just having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
But as far as like other top five, I mean, there's like Adam Cole, and there's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and like Malachi Black and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, and like there's just so many, and like Statlander I love, and I can't, honestly, I've thought about it for like 3 hours and I just cannot narrow it down. I mean, all time, I mean, like Undertaker, Macho Man, Mick Foley in all of his forms, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, you know, like I was more of a Rock than a Stone Cold.
I was more of a Triple H than a Rock or Stone Cold. Like, I've always, like, the top guys like that, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because, like, all the boys in my middle school were running around, like, in their Stone Cold and the Rock stuff. I would definitely go more Rock than Stone Cold. Especially, like, I think who Stone Cold is now as a person does not seem problematic.
But who he was then.
Then was very. But, I mean, Dwayne The Rock Johnson has always just been, like, a sweet baby angel of a human, it seems.
Yes.
And I've said it before and I'll say it again, like, I absolutely love the stuff that he posts on his social media because he shows himself obviously being this, like, embodiment of, like, manliness, like, if you look at him, but then you see him being a really good dad and doing these things that are also manly, but we don't traditionally think society does not deem manly. Like being late to a meeting because your daughter has insisted that you're having a tea party and she's painting your nails does not fly for like most people's idea of masculinity. But The Rock, I think, is very much so. When you have men like that who are so prominent, the ideas start to shift, and we're seeing, like, even in wrestling, like, you're seeing more guys who are, like, bro-y, like Riddle, wearing nail polish and, like, little things like that, that I'm very excited to see, like, men have more options to them on who they can be.
It does feel like society as a whole, not even just in wrestling, is kind of shifting away from that alpha male, like, big tough guy, you know. They're allowed to start showing emotions and allowed to be human. Like, men weren't allowed to be human for a long time.
Yeah.
And now it seems like, you know, as I hate to like be morbid, but as like the older generations are dying off that had that whole, you know, men will be men, suck it up, don't cry attitude. They're starting to cry and like show emotion and
live longer.
Yeah. And like, not have a heart attack at 35.
And like, and you can see it too. I mean, you see it in the stuff that like Undertaker, for example, says about the current locker room, and like, oh, in my day we had knives and guns in our bags. Now these guys are playing video games. Like, yeah, and their lives are better. Like
in my day we cheated on our wives and binged on coke and beat up guys at a bar. These guys are just playing video. Like, who cares?
Half of them are sober.
I know. None of these guys have a drug problem. What's up with this?
Drug testing.
Like, oh, sorry that they're not killing themselves. Like, I love it. I love seeing pictures of them on like airplanes and like playing on their switches, and or you know, like Kenny coming out as Sans from Undertale, or like them coming out as Street Fighter. The one like I love that dorky stuff.
Or Xavier Woods' love of the Golden Girls. Like, oh,
or
love
just
that.
Xavier Woods as a
person.
The whole thing. Like,
yes.
Like Creed / Woods. He's a good example. He is like a tough dude, and he's huge. But he's also a complete dork that shows him like he's a perfect example of a man. Like,
yeah, And I think people forget how, like, that Xavier Woods is, like, not a normal sized human being because he's next to Big E all the time. But, yeah, he's
a big dude.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's not like I'm 5'2", so it's not like 5'2.5". So it's not like he's 5'2.5" walking around. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Rey Mysterio. And I say that because I saw Rey Mysterio in person, and, like, I was fairly close to him, and I don't think he's 5'5". I think that's what they bill him as. I think he's more like 5'4", 5'3".
So, like, my height.
Yeah, because, like, I was at Comic-Con, and I was definitely wearing comfortable shoes, so there wasn't, like, a heel or anything. He's closer to my height. I hate to break it to everyone.
Well, I mean, according to WWE, Adam Cole is also 6 feet, so...
Yeah. Yeah, and I did meet Kenny Omega somewhat recently. That poor man. It was after... I said you should come with me.
I know, work.
It was after he dropped the title to Adam... Hangman. There we go. I almost said Adam Cole. I was like, wait, that didn't happen.
Wrong
yet.
Adam.
So after it was the next day. Like, this poor man, like, there's no way he really slept or functioned. I just remember, and it was towards the end of the day that I got to see him because the line was literally out the door and wrapped around the block to see him. So me and my friend stood in line for like 3 or 4 hours, I think. But he was as nice as pie, but also much more closer to my height than I was expecting. And part of it, the Big Show was not, however. The Big Show was exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah, I've heard he's massive. I have a friend that used to work at Johnny Rockets like years ago and said that Big Show, or Paul as he's known now, him and I forget the other wrestlers that were there, but he said that Big Show was one of them and said that he was A, massive, and B, one of the nicest humans he's ever met.
Oh, yeah. When I met him, like, same friend that I met Omega with, but he, like, was giving everybody hugs. Like, he just put, like, one person under each arm. Aww. And I felt like the safest I had ever been in my entire life. I was just like, I, like, snuggled right in there. And my friend was just petrified. She was just like, if this man wanted, he could snap me in half. 2 very different reactions, but I'm sure they're the most common reactions.
Probably.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was also really nice because, like, I remember the first time I saw the Big Show and saw him, like, live wrestling. Mm-hmm. And then a decade later, I took my nephew with me to a wrestling show who was 13, 14 at the time. Okay. And the Big Show came out then, and I just watched my nephew's face because I know I had that same look on my face when I first saw him. And it was just like this really cool, like, generational moment of, like, getting to see
this monster.
Yeah. And it was so great. It's one of my favorite memories with my nephew.
Aw, that's adorable.
Yeah. No, my nephew's taller than I am and has a beard.
It happens.
Yeah. Big age gap with siblings.
I say he's my nephew, but he's my best friend's kid. Is 16 now, and yeah, I used to be able to pick him up on my hip, and now he's taller than me, and I love it. And by love, I mean hate.
Yeah. It's when I realized my nephew was suddenly taller than me. Whenever he would enter a room, I would actually sit down so he wouldn't know. And my one niece caught on to what I was doing and was just like, "Aunt Sabrina, why aren't you standing up?" I was like, "Why don't you mind your damn business?" And then he realized what was going on and forced me to stand up, and sure enough, he was taller than me.
I didn't really have family that watched, besides my aunt and uncle, that watched wrestling too, so I don't really have any stories of, like, I mean, my mom used to take me when I was a kid, but I know that she didn't really want to be there. And she would take me and my younger cousin, or my older cousin, Amy, who also wasn't really into it, but would just come. So I didn't have, like, really... I mean, when I went with my aunt and uncle, that was awesome. I remember we got second row once, and that was the time that I was, like, 5 and screaming to Miss Elizabeth like a lunatic. But I only went with them a couple times, and then I didn't... It was when... no one's going to know this except for people that live in the Scranton area, but the CYC. Oh, yeah. Yeah, when they used to play there, and you'd fit, like, 200 people in that building, if that...
Yeah, I think it was Catholic Youth Center.
Yeah. And now it's Lackawanna College. It's something to do with them. But there was not a lot of room in there, and in the little second row, and, like, just screaming at them. And it was really cool because it was so small, and you could see all these legends so close up. Like, Flair and Macho. I never saw Hogan, and I don't care about that because I have a lot of feelings on him, but so do a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to see like Hacksaw, and I remember he shook my hand, and I had a little foam like 2x4, and that's why he came over to me. And like that stuff was fun. I just wish like I had like a sibling or like a niece or a nephew or someone that was into it too. But
yeah, so my nephew, he was half humoring me and going, like, he was into wrestling, like, he'd catch it sometimes, and I had no one else to go with, and I was like, hey, I'll take you to a wrestling show if you want to go with me, and he was like, okay. So, like, driving, I had to, like, catch him up on everything, but he knew who most of the people were, like, he watched it enough to know that. But yeah, it was a cool experience. Growing up, like, so I watched it with my dad. So when my dad passed away, which happened right before I turned 19, I stopped watching wrestling for a bit because it was just too difficult. Mm-hmm. And then I was only watching when I was in college, basically from 2007 to 2010. I was only watching pay-per-views. Okay. That's it. That's all I was catching. So like CM Punk, I had to go find CM Punk's pipe bomb and things like that. No, that was after. So I guess until like 2012, 2013, I was only catching the pay-per-views.
Gotcha.
And only for WWE, I tried, like when Jeff Hardy left and went to TNA and they had the like, what was it, 6-sided ring?
Yeah.
I tried that and no.
I never watched any TNA. Yeah,
it was not good then. I don't know what it's like now. Well, I mean now it's Impact, but and I hear good things about Impact now. I don't have time in my life to add on another wrestling show.
Yeah, there's too much. Like,
yeah, like I am sad. I'm heartbroken about what they've done to NXT, but also my schedule is a little easier now. Yeah.
Yeah, NXT is something that neither of us watch now, I think. So that's probably not anything we're ever going to talk about if there's any NXT people that come across this. Sorry.
Yeah, like I love Dakota Kai and I love Pete Dunne, but like Pete Dunne, they're saying is probably going to be pulled up to the main roster soon. I think he'll probably do well there.
Hopefully. I mean, they do ruin small guys sometimes.
I think he has such like I think he will be okay enough, especially if so I was listening to Cultaholic, and they were talking about him being partnered with somebody, or not partnered, but maybe going against someone like Cesaro, because that's what they've been talking about.
That'd be fun.
That would be great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Dakota Kai and some of the other female, like Io Shirai, like I love her.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, if I see one more person take and beat up someone in a trash can, like with it over the top, and they're like hitting on either brand with a stick to the trash can, like I don't know who you think you're fooling. Like, please, I realize that things are predetermined.
That spot's overdone.
Yeah, it should not be a spot. It should not be a spot. Please stop doing it. It makes me so mad every time I see it. I feel like you're insulting my intelligence. Of all the things, that's where
that's where you draw the line.
Get out of the trash can. If you want to hit someone with a stick, hit them with a stick.
I mean, I can understand when they put the trash can on them and jump onto the trash can.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense. But when you're just like, bing.
Yeah. To the trash can. Like, if you put the trash can on them and then you hit them below the trash can, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Because they can't move. Well, they could, but I mean, like, they can't in kayfabe terms move their arms to protect themselves.
Yeah. Which, I mean, also, if you take a guy like Big E, who has, like, broad shoulders, and you force one of those trash cans over him,
he'd be stuck.
Mm-hmm. Legitimately. Thankfully, they're greased up, so you can just shimmy it, like, out of there, but yeah, he'd be stuck.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, please get rid of that spot. I don't remember where. Oh, my love of you, Shirai. That's where it's.
Yes.
Yeah. She makes the War Games match almost every year, like, worth the watch. And then this year, even that spot, I was just like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I started kind of falling out of NXT when it moved to TV, when they were going like week to week against AEW, and I chose AEW to watch over, and like I'm like I can't do Raw and SmackDown and NXT and AEW and like New Japan and all. I'm like something's got to be cut, and I'm like, and it was NXT that first got cut, but it even started really changing when it moved to TV. Like it wasn't the same as it was when it was just on the network when there was a network.
Yeah, yes, I miss the network so much.
Yeah, Peacock is terrible. It freezes constantly on us. I don't know about you.
It doesn't freeze, but it's very hard to search and navigate things. Like, I'm someone who used to love like the network produced shows. I was really into them, especially the interview things like Table for Three or Ride Along, things like that. Love it. Fantastic. Give me more of that. It's really difficult to like navigate navigate Peacock and their interface now. But also, I am so spoiled by WWE having that. I get so mad that AEW does not have something like that.
I'm sure eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure they will too. But, you know, I'm a spoiled millennial and I want it right now.
I don't think they have enough yet to justify doing that because they've only been around,
They would have to take all of, like, the Being the Elite stuff and put it on there too. They would have to do that.
It's only, like 2.5 years now, right? Yeah, because I saw their third ever show in Philly. That was October, like 16th-ish or something like that. So.
Yeah, because it was right after my birthday.
That was an awesome show. That was so much fun. Yeah. I think that's the first time that Hangman and Kenny tagged together because they went against Mox and Pac. I almost said Neville. Because it was when Kenny and Moxley were feuding. So after the match was over, they had like the barbed wired broom and the barbed wired baseball bat, and it was just a lot of fun.
I always love, I don't think people talk about how great dark matches are, specifically at like TV live events. The best match I ever saw was a dark match, and this was long ago, and you're going to know that immediately by who I tell you is in it. So it was Triple H, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Batista, who else was in there? There were like probably Randy Orton. Like there were a lot of like big heavy hitters in this dark match. It was like 3-on-3, and I just remember Shawn Michaels kicked Triple H, like gave him the what the hell is it called?
Super kick?
Super kick. I think sidekick. Gave him the sidekick. Gave him the super kick, and Triple H stood there on his tippy toes for like too long that it becomes funny, and then a little bit longer after that. And it had to be a solid minute and a half, and which seems even longer at a live show like that. And it's the best thing I've ever seen. And I've seen like I've been very fortunate. Like I've seen Money in the Bank matches, Royal Rumbles, which is always interesting because if you're in like the arena for it, the crowd's counting never matches the countdown. Never matches it. You're always faster than the little clock ticking down. I think it's slow. But yeah, I absolutely loved that dark match. It'll forever be one of my favorites.
The one dark match that sticks out to me is it was a SmackDown a couple years ago. It was when AJ and Randy Orton were feuding. And it was right after, I think it was a video of Orton like twerking came out or something. So the ref was Mike Chioda at the time. And AJ and Randy Orton and him were twerking in the ring. Like they were not taking it seriously. And when I say AJ was twerking, I use that very lightly. He was basically just swaying his butt around like real awkward. And it was some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen in my life.
See, I just imagine him. I think I saw that. Was that down in Philly?
No, it was here in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
I think I posted it on Facebook, so you might have saw it.
Yeah. It's very, especially if it was here, it's very rare that I miss an event that is, because it's 45 minutes down the road. Like, it's not far.
Yeah, we moved right down after because we were sitting on the floor and like everybody left because they were doing 205 Live. And everyone left, but we were like, we're staying. And everybody that stayed was like severely cheering for the 205 Live people and making it sound like it was the best event ever to the point that they were tweeting about our crowd after. And we moved down after that for the dark match. That was that one. And we were like in the second row. So I had second row seats to AJ's butt swaying in my face. Yeah.
I initially loved 205 Live. Like I watched it all the time. It was one of my favorite things. And then Alicia Fox, love him. It like gave her basically a nice ending to her career. Like it gave her a good, like, a little run there. I want to say, though, when that gimmick was over was about the time I stopped really watching. They just didn't care about the cruiserweights.
No. That's because, let's face it, Vince is not a fan of wrestlers or sports entertainers, if you're talking about that company, that are small.
You can't even say small, like,
yeah, or not huge.
That are taller than the average human being.
Right? Like, I feel like the only smaller guys that he has liked have been like Shawn Michaels because, money. Probably Bryan Danielson when he was Daniel Bryan there, and AJ. He likes AJ a lot.
How can you not like?
I know AJ is phenomenal. Not pun not intended. AJ is phenomenal. Like,
yeah, he definitely would go on my top 10 wrestlers, maybe top 5 male currently wrestlers.
Yeah, I forgot him before, but he's definitely up there too. And Finn, see, there's too many. And Finn Balor and like,
I was so into the Finn Balor Seth Rollins match when Finn won, and then immediately crushed the next day. Like, I've never gotten over that, and I never will.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
I'm sure Finn Balor was far more upset than I am about it, but yeah, I will forever be upset and angry.
I was so excited to see him like come up and win and be the first like Universal champ, and then I know that Seth had to feel terrible too. Like,
yeah. They said, I guess I was watching something, I think on the network, and so not long after Finn's injury, Seth got injured too, and they were in rehab together, like physical rehab, not I have a drinking problem or drug problem rehab.
Not I'm a wrestler from the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. And they, like, Rollins had said to him, like, I'm so sorry, and all this, and Finn was just like, don't, like, I signed up for this, basically.
I saw that too. I had legit just forgot about it until you mentioned it. I remember that.
Speaking of wrestlers from the 80s, this is not a wrestler from the 80s, but I'm glad that Jon Moxley is doing better. Right before he went into rehab, I had messaged you and I was like, I think Jon Moxley has an alcohol problem. And it's like, he looks like he does. And if you watch Roads to the Top, there's an episode where Brandy, a very pregnant Brandy, goes to talk to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm really hungover. I'm going to go throw up right now. And she's like, really? Really? And just some other things, like whenever you see him doing interviews, he would always have, I think, Jack or Jameis, some sort of whiskey was his drink. He's a big whiskey connoisseur, which I know from Renee. Not from him, but I know from Renee. Her talking about just like what he enjoyed throughout listening to her interviews and podcasts throughout the years. But he looks better. Yeah, he looks much better because he looked at least 10 years older than he actually is. He's my age, and he looked like he was in his 40s.
Yeah, he's younger than me. He's 35, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he's 2 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, he wasn't looking good. Yeah, that was so weird how you legit just messaged me saying like, oh, it looks like he's, got an alcohol problem. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And then
thankfully he was like, I'm going to rehab.
I still need to read his book. I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah, his is another one. I just got the most recent, not the most recent. So I read the most recent JR book, and now I'm going back and I just purchased the first book that he wrote. So, although there are spoiler alerts in that second book, heads up. It's an autobiography. So, my favorite thing I think I've ever read in a wrestling book is Drew McIntyre's, where he talks about, it's either where he's coming, I think it's where he's coming out at the Royal Rumble. Apparently he's a Lady Gaga fan. And he said he's standing behind the curtain, and like when he walks out, he just thinks, a star is born, motherfuckers.
Oh my god, that's too funny.
And now whenever I see Drew McIntyre's entrance and as he comes out, that's all I can think. And it's wonderful.
I love him.
Yeah, he's such a great human being. I love him and his cat dadness.
I hope that he gets another top run, like, with a crowd.
Yeah.
He deserves to have another top run with actual people, because I felt so bad for him, like, finally coming back and winning the title, and then pandemic hits, and he had to do it in front of a
no one
empty arena.
Like the sound crew, or like whoever's like has the cameras. I started my day off with too much coffee is what has happened. And now, like, my brain is just, like, trying to power down. Why must you make me work? Yeah, so that is my favorite Drew McIntyre little fact. That he's a Lady Gaga or at least a Star is Born fan. So
I've never seen that.
I mean, it's decent. The music, the soundtrack from it is fantastic. Yeah. But I mean, it's, I think, the third or fourth iteration of the same story, so it is what it is.
I'm so bad at watching movies or TV shows besides, like, wrestling shows. I'm a nerd, too. Like, I watch my Twitch and have my people I follow, the Chugs and...
Oh, yes. Yes. I am much more of, like, a movie... I'm not so into video games. I grew up way too poor for them. So, like, the very rare occasion that I would get to play something was always, like... I played more video games in college on, like, the old Nintendo than I ever did as a child. But my first memory of a video game was in kindergarten. I went to my friend's birthday party, and it was a boy, and he was playing Sonic the Hedgehog, and it was supposed to be my turn, and when it came to my turn, he said no and punched me, and then his mother drug him upstairs and put soap in his mouth.
Oh, no.
And I just remember I was then sitting there gleefully playing, and I remember pausing at one point and listening to him going, ah! And then I kept playing.
That's fantastic.
So that is me playing video games right there.
No, my dad was a big man child. I mean, my father was only in his late 20s when I was a kid, so he wanted to have a Nintendo, and it was in my room because it was supposed to be mine, but then my father would be there playing until like 2 in the morning when I had to be up for preschool. But I started playing at a really young age, like on the original Nintendo and then the Super Nintendo, and I've been into them since as long as I've been into wrestling, honestly, since preschool.
I had, my mom had me, quote, late in life. She was 33. But for like a boomer, that was late. So yeah, that poor woman didn't have like any friends that had friends like around she didn't have friends that had children around my age. But yeah, my mom wasn't into any of that. She, like, I grew up like into really weird things. Like when I was 4 years old, my two favorite movies were The Little Mermaid and Pretty Woman. Like she let me watch things that I really shouldn't have, like Lethal Weapon also at that age, but she made me cover my eyes for some things. So
I have a similar, my movies that I watched when I was younger, because I was not a normal child either. Princess Bride,
oh yeah,
Spaceballs, yeah. Beetlejuice, and Pee-wee's Great Adventure. And you know that there's a part in Beetlejuice where he's like, nice fucking model. Well, remember when we were younger with the videotape where if you were recording and pressed pause, it went snowy.
Oh.
So they recorded it off a TV and it went snowy at that part. And the same thing in Spaceballs, what the fuck, even in the future, nothing works. I didn't know either of those lines existed in those movies till I was about 13. I was like, wait, what is this? Like, I never knew that this happened. I thought there was just something wrong with those tapes.
It's funny what, like, our parents will do for us. I'm obsessed with unicorns, like, and I have been from a very young age. They were my favorite animal. And they're Scotland's national animal, so clearly they are real.
Just about to say the same thing.
Yeah. So what my mother told me was that unicorns were indeed real, but they didn't make it onto Noah's Ark, and they drowned. That's what she told me to comfort me, basically. Like, she didn't say that part, but, like, if they didn't make it onto the Ark, they drowned. Oh my God. So I believed that was in the Bible until my mid-20s.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't, I forget, I was talking to someone, it was one of my roommates, like, after grad school, and, yeah, she stopped me, and she's like, Sabrina, do you think unicorns are in the Bible? And I was like, my mother told me they were.
Mama said.
Yeah. Which led me to then calling my mother and being like, I just found out that unicorns aren't in the Bible. And she started laughing. She's like, you still thought that? And I was like, yes. Yes, I did.
That is way too funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There have been, like, lots of little things like that over my life. I was also my mother had a traumatic brain injury, so she didn't have like a short-term memory really, and like all this other stuff.
Oh, wow.
So maybe she thought she told me at some point that they weren't, or she just figured I figured it out. But
Or it was a prank that lasted over half your life.
yeah, over half my life.
That is too funny.
Yeah, I was like 25. I'm 34 now. I almost said 35. That's not me. I'm 34. Aging myself up.
I'll say 35. I'll age myself down.
Yeah. But yes, back to wrestling. not unicorns, which the New Day. There we go.
That fits into wrestling.
Yep. Again, thank you, Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, and Big E.
Cheers.
Yep. Yeah. So neither one of us are necessarily fans of the person that Brock Lesnar is, but I'm kind of a fan of what he's doing as a character now.
Like I said earlier, I hate that I don't hate him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's really funny right now, and I hate that I think that.
Yep. And like the turn came when the stuff with R-Truth, where Brock Lesnar was clearly so amused with R-Truth, like year and a half, 2 years. No, there was a live crowd. This was prior to COVID.
I think it was like right no, it was the year before the COVID one, because it was Otis that won the briefcase during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
So wow, that was 2019. That's almost 3 years ago.
Jeez. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Brock Lesnar was gone from our screens for a long time because he's Brock Lesnar, but also because he was in Canada growing his hair. What is it, mane and tail, or tail and mane or something, just putting that on there?
Yeah, and apparently conversing with Danielson to say, hey, let's grow the same hairstyle. Like,
oh, yeah. yeah, basically. Thank God they don't have exactly the same. Can you imagine if they both came out the same?
I mean, one's a lumberjack from Washington, the other one's a lumberjack from Canada. Almost the same
well,
thing.
Minnesota, now Canada. Yeah. But, oh, yeah. I think also it'll be... I will forever be happy that they had better never bring Sable back for a Royal Rumble or anything. I will riot. I do not like that. I also do not like Kelly. I blame her for it's not her. She is just a symptom of a very large problem I had with that era.
I missed the Divas era, thankfully. I came back at the tail end, and it was, what was it, Beth Phoenix was the champion when I first started watching, and then it was, what was her name?
AJ Lee?
No.
Michelle McCool?
No, she was a brunette and had something to do with Zack Ryder.
Yeah.
And Kane.
It began with an M, right?
I don't think so. I don't remember, but she was champ for a little bit. But yeah, I just missed the very tail. Like, I caught the very tail end of the Divas, the whole thing, and it was very clear to me that, like, Beth and AJ Lee stuck out as real athletes and real wrestlers, and the rest were just models that were told to wrestle.
Along with Natalia. She was a real wrestler.
Oh, God, Natalia. How did I forget? She's, like, part of now that I don't even...
You don't even really think about it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have her wrestle a whole hell of a lot. Like, although now that Beth Phoenix seems to be back, I want a Natalia and Beth tag team championship. That's what I want. I better see it. They deserve it.
I would love that.
They are fantastic. They might as well be sisters. I just love them. I think one of the things that made me love Beth Phoenix more was finding out that she was also a Chyna fan.
Seems obvious.
Yeah, it really does.
She's like Chyna 2.0, like the second wave of a Chyna.
Yeah. And thankfully she's been treated a lot better. And some people will argue, and it's probably part of it, like who her husband is. It's also because of she didn't date Triple H. I mean, let's be real. But I think one of the hardest things for her, she hasn't really talked about it, but the year that Beth went into, it was 2017 because it was the year after Chyna died. And everyone was so pissed online that it wasn't Chyna going in. And I was one of them, but like not enough that I was like being outwardly mean to Beth Phoenix, but like online people were just like ripping her apart. Like, this woman didn't do anything. Like she is amazing, and like she gets a lot of love now, but I remember like watching her induction, and like you could hear like they cut out some boos, and I was just like, there is no bigger China fan than me, but that was inappropriate what people were doing. Beth Phoenix did not deserve that.
No.
And as I'm sure she also was hoping that China was going to go in, but what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah.
be like, no, thank you.
It wasn't her fault that she was asked to be in it.
Mm-hmm. And she deserves to
Yes.
be in it. Like 100% deserves it.
Mm-hmm. It's not like the Bellas. Not like the Bellas. Like, I'll just flat out say it. I don't think they deserve it. Like,
I mean, so the thing with the Bella twins, while they are, by far, they are not the best wrestlers ever, you cannot take away the fact that they did bring a lot more eyes onto the product, and for Vince McMahon specifically, showed that women could make him money. That's Total Divas and their idea of that and bringing that in is why we are where we're at. Like, the Four Horsewomen would never have been pushed if it wasn't for the fact that Vince knew he could make money. And that's what they did. Like, they are brilliant businesswomen. They're good at telling stories, too. But...
Oh, Brie and Nikki's feud was horrible, though. Like, Brian and I still laugh at that. You should have been, like, died, or should have died in the womb.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my God.
My God. Yeah. Yeah. That wasn't great.
No, it really wasn't. It was bad acting, and it was bad story, and it was just... I'm not a fan of them. I never had... To me, they represent everything that was wrong with women's wrestling.
See, that's Kelly for me.
Ah, gotcha.
Because, like, especially Nikki and Brie could do some wrestling. Like, they were light years ahead of, like, the people who were, like, really in the Divas era. Mm-hmm. Basically, the people who came after Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler, but before the Bellas, Naomi, who's somebody else?
Natalia was from, like, that era, wasn't she?
She was sprinkled in between, like, poor Natalia. Like,
she doesn't really have an era to claim, does she?
She has all of the eras.
That's
like,
true.
She's just been, like, chugging through. Like, she deserves a lot of credit because, like, Beth bowed out. She was just like, I can't take this crap. Like, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. And, like, a lot of other women were fired, but I think because Natalia was very much in, like, a managerial role at that point, they kept her around. Plus, she's a Neidhart. Like,
yeah.
She is amazing. And, I mean, she's trained how many people now?
Right.
Like, everyone.
She's got to be, like, the mama hen of the
mm-hmm.
locker room. Like, the leader back there.
Yeah. I always hope that Natalia's mental health is okay. Because I'm not saying that folks who get a lot of plastic surgery have poor self-image. But I'm concerned with the amount she's had and the alterations she has done that she doesn't feel good about herself. Which, I mean, if that is not the case, do what you want. But I hope she realizes, like, she was beautiful to begin with. She didn't need to do anything. Like, she was good.
It does become, like, an addiction for some people, too. Kind of along the same line of, like, tattoos. Like, they say you get one and then you don't stop at one. And it seems similar for plastic surgery. Like, once people start, they just don't stop. And I think it becomes... I mean, anything is unhealthy if you do it too much. And I think for some people, it just becomes an unhealthy addiction.
They're saying what people are doing now is... So people used to... Plastic surgeons' offices, they used to bring in... photos of celebrities that they wanted to look like. But now people are taking themselves with, like, filters on and stuff like that and bring that in as the reference. Like, I want this unattainable version of myself on my face. Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen that, too, where they want, like, what their Snapchat filter would look like. It's like, all right, well, you have to enlarge your eyes, like, that much. And, like...
You're bug-eyed now. You're a Bratz doll. That's what...
Yes.
Enjoy your Bratz doll look.
Yes, that's what people look like with those filters. That's a great description.
Or, like, the Michael Jackson nose that, like, a lot of people are getting now. I'm just like, that's not the good look.
No.
His nose caved in a little bit. Like, that was the thing that happened. Just saying.
Like, I don't mind, like, changing the lighting a little bit or, like, touching up if there's, like, a zit on my face or something. Like, you know, but to change the whole scape of your everything and not even look like yourself, it's just...
And not like, oh, this is me with, like, bunny ears and, like, bunny teeth.
Yeah.
But, like, this is... You're starting to see those pictures, too, in, like, funeral ads. Or not ads. Obituaries. Otherwise known as funeral ads in my mind.
I'm sorry.
Obituaries. In obituaries, people are clearly having like Snapchat filters on their photos.
I'm so sorry. Funeral ad just killed me.
I think I'm gonna refer to them as that from now on. Oh, did you see that person's funeral ad? Did you know Joe died? I saw his funeral ad.
Oh my god. That's the advertisement for the funeral. Oh god.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
That just killed me. But yes, I didn't notice that people were using their Snapchat filtered for their obituaries.
Yeah. Which, I mean, some old people, like, older folks use their, like, here's a photo of me from 1920 and my I'm just like, I don't know if I know this person. I know 7 Joe Smiths. I don't know why I keep picking on somebody named Joe, but I don't know if this is that one. Maybe he was in the military, maybe he wasn't. Who knows?
Right. It's scary when they start using them for like missing persons because I've seen that, or like the police department will like post out this person's missing, and they
use their like profile
picture, and it's like, well, that's not what they look like in real life. So
it's like, use their license photo. Love. Ugh. Although I would not want my license photo. I swear those things get closer and closer every year. Like the next time I renew my license, it's just going to be like a giant pour. That's all it's going to be.
Just here.
Is this you? And you can't wear your glasses either, so I feel like you used to be able to, but I'm probably lying to myself on that.
I don't remember. I'll let you know when I have to get mine renewed.
I know you can't now because I tried to wear mine. They were like, take those off. And I was like, fine. You're never going to know if I'm driving blind. Not that I would do that.
No. I'm sorry. You were talking about Natalia and we went way off the rails.
With funeral ads, yes. Which hopefully Natalia lives a long, happy life. I will say one of the things I liked about Total Divas, because yes, I watched that.
I did not.
Was seeing Natalia's family. One, I love me a good cat family. And 2, like, you got to see so much of her dad prior. Like, he had a real, like, resurgence of his career from Total Divas. And I was at a signing. It was the big event in New York. He was at it, and I saw her mom, like, and I recognized her, and our eyes hit, and she realized I recognized her, and she like froze, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I wasn't near her, but like the look I tried to convey was like, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to approach you. And she's like, and like she like inched away. But she was like, oh God, like, I'm sure she's had so many people like approach her on the street, and she was like, she was coming back from the bathroom, like, she was just like, I'm not prepared for this.
Like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I'm not the famous one.
Mm-hmm. It's also interesting when you, like, as a female fan, which now there's a lot more, especially, like, young girls, but wrestling events are great because it's the only time I can go to a public restroom and there's no line for the women, but there's a line out the door for the dudes, and I'm like, tra-la-la-la.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace.
Yeah.
And speaking of wrestling shows, I loved an AEW. We were talking about it a couple weeks ago with the dads that had like all their little girls in the front row.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. It just took me back to when I was a kid because they were like screaming and cheering and absolutely loving it. And I'm like, I need to see more of this.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I was also like, how much disposable income do you have?
You know, honestly, AEW's front row is not that.
Okay.
It's not like WWE's.
Like $500.
No, it's not that bad because we honestly talked about next time we go, we're going to try to get down there because they're reasonable price.
Good to know. They haven't. So the other thing, like, so SmackDown, no, Raw was just in Philly, but I was not prepared. And like, Philly does require you to show proof of vaccination, and you're supposed to wear a mask the whole time. You're looking at that crowd, you know they're not. But I just could not bring myself to like go at this point with the pandemic, and everything being so contagious.
Yeah, I'm not ready for a crowd yet.
No, I'd have to be like in Bubble Boy, basically. That would have to be me. And I mean, it'd be a much smaller crowd if everyone was in bubbles.
Right.
But,
and safer.
Yeah. Yes, with AEW wrestlers, I'm also a huge fan. Like, obviously, Kenny Omega, Britt Baker. I also love Ruby Soho. I like her more in AEW than I did in WWE. Just like what they're doing with her. Yeah. Because she just seems like such a genuine human being, and like she has a lot of talent, I think. So her I was a little sad she didn't get the TBS championship, but I think Jade is also a very good choice.
Yeah.
Because Ruby, a lot of people were like, Thunder Rosa should have got it. I was like, no, she belongs in the main event picture. Like, this is a secondary title. Like, you wouldn't say that Roman Reigns should have the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah,
like,
not now.
Not now. Yeah. He belongs in that main event picture. Same thing like Big E now, like people don't want to see him go back down. They want him to stay up.
Yeah, you don't want to see Big E with like the U.S. Championship after he just had a main title run.
Exactly. So like Jade, it makes a lot of sense. I absolutely love her. I love a smart woman who has an education and like looks strong. And that thing with her daughter.
I know, that was great.
Yeah. It was such a great moment. Although they do it all the time, like when they pan to little kids after, like little kids after their parent wins, and they're like, I don't.
And the kid doesn't care.
Yeah, they're like, where's my snack?
Right.
This doesn't have to do with me. Why am I here? Because she was way more into it when she was like in the center of everything. She was like, yes.
Yeah, I like Jade. I know that she's still a little
green.
A little bit. I think that she'd be better suited for like complete squash matches, honestly. Like, I don't think she should be going yet in these long matches. I think she'd be really good booked as like coming in, just killing someone and then leaving. Like, just dominate.
Like Wardlowing it?
Yeah. Yeah, like a female Wardlow. Like,
that's, yeah. And some people are like really annoyed at what they're doing with Wardlow and like where he's at with all the squash matches, but it makes so much sense because of what they're doing with Spears and MJF. You know, in that moment where he like loses his gasket, probably like when he's up for a title, that him and MJF are just gonna explode or implode, whatever. I am there for it. I want to see that so bad. Again, great long-term storytelling.
Yes, that's one thing that I feel like AEW is really good at, is the long-term.
Specifically with the men's division, because with the women's, it's not.
Yeah, they have a lot of good talent, but they don't have a lot of great stories when it's coming to the women. That's something that they need to work on. And I'm still trying to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're a newer company and still trying to find their footing. But if it gets to be like, next year and they're, 4 years into it and it's still the same, then I might start really criticizing it.
And the other thing is, I don't know who needs to tell them this. You can have stories that are basically the same that the men are doing for women going after the championships. Like, it doesn't have to be... I'm glad that there's not a lot of, like, this is my boyfriend stuff. Like, people... I think it's interesting, and like I agree with this from what I've heard so far. Adam Cole said he would love to work with Britt Baker and would be open to it. She hasn't said anything about that yet, and that's the smartest thing she can do. Because Britt Baker 100% is a pillar of AEW.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And the problem is, because Adam Cole is also amazing, pairing them together... is going, one of them will get diminished. And it's
probably going to be
Britt. It's very rare. Like Becky and Seth. Seth got diminished, which I think is the first time I've ever seen that happen. Ever.
That's because Becky was like an anomaly. Like, she was the most over person in wrestling, not just AEW, or not just in WWE.
She was the most over person in AEW. It was really impressive.
But like, she, like, the whole industry, she was huge. And then like to have to go away in the peak of your career too, obviously you can't wrestle if you're going to have a baby, and that's something that women will have to deal with more than men, because men only have to leave like after the child is born. Yeah. But then to come back and still be huge, and then they're like desperately trying to push her as this heel that it's just not working. She's still getting cheered.
I could see them, like, if they worked her more like a Triple H style heel, it would work perfectly. Because, like, Triple H was like an in-betweener because he was so cool and funny and everything. I mean, The Rock was like that.
In The Rock,
yeah. Which is basically what is organically being forced upon because like I love Becky Lynch. She could like tell me that I suck, and I'd be like, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Love everything you're doing. Keep doing it.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And she wasn't the strongest wrestler out of the four of them either. She was probably the least strongest out of the four of them, I would say. And just, I don't know, it was just her connection with the crowd and like the whole Charlotte being pushed over her thing, and she just became and then getting punched in the face by Nia and bleeding all over, and like
Nia Jax made a lot of careers.
Unintentionally.
Yeah. Like, although unfortunately for Nia Jax, she will forever be known for my hole. My favorite thing, like, you knew that it wasn't a work by looking at Lana's face. Because Lana was like, oh. Did she say that? Oh, wait, I have to keep doing stuff. Like, oh, I wouldn't have. I give them a lot of credit. I give Lana a lot of credit for not, like, losing it.
Oh, I would have. I would have been done.
Like, because that's her friend in real life. Your friend is all of a sudden grabbing their ass and yelling, my hole.
Yeah.
And also, like, part of me wonders if Nia Jax, if my hole is part of her natural vocabulary, or if her brain realized she was on a PG show.
And couldn't say my ass.
My asshole. My hole. Because then I was also like, which hole?
Yeah, that was a moment I think a lot of us probably had. Like, oh, there's two of them down there. Which one are you talking about?
Yeah.
The whole thing was just awkward and funny.
Yeah. And they should have left it and not done the thing.
Oh, I know.
Ugh. I like to redcon that in my mind.
If there's one thing WWE does well, it's beating a horse when it's dead for a week. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's just like, oh, this was hilarious. You know also, like, Vince was laughing his ass off.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's his humor, 100%. Like, that's the only reason she wasn't in trouble. Was because that is right up Vince's alley.
Or even, what was it, Mandy Rose that fell at WrestleMania coming down the ramp, and they ran that in the ground for 3 weeks before she went to NXT. Like,
yeah, I think, did I message you, like, did I just see Mandy Rose fall?
I think so.
Yeah, I think, did she just tank it? Like, is that what happened?
She was a great sport about it, got right back up, and...
She was. Like, Mandy Rose does not have the best wrestling abilities. I understand she's improved in NXT, which is what it's there for. But, like, she's not great unless she has a good, and by great I mean she's not decent, unless there's a good storyline. Like, Otis. I really liked her and Sonya together regardless, like, prior to that, like... But, yeah, I like her as a face more so than a heel, I think.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, which is not something I would have thought, because she easily could have been a callback to the Divas era, which I think is...
That's what they're doing in NXT, and I hate it. Because we saw, like, what she could do when it was her and Sonya, or, like, even with her and Otis when she was feuding with Sonya.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think that would be a storyline that I would be invested in. And I was.
It was so over.
Yeah.
It was so over.
It was just great. And I think the fact that, like, I heard that, like, she and Otis were really good friends in real life. So their chemistry of already being friends, like, the whole thing was just, it was really good.
Yeah.
Like,
I miss Otis being a good guy, too.
Yeah.
I miss Heavy Machine. So I am so annoyed that Heavy Machinery never became tag champs. Like, I don't, whatever with Alpha Academy, blah, whatever. But, like, Heavy Machinery definitely should have. They were so good together.
Yeah, Tucky was great.
Oh, yeah. Tucky! For a long time, I would just walk around the house doing that. You know, like those little things get stuck in your head.
Mine was a Tucker.
Tucker! Yeah. Him doing the worm.
Yeah, I loved Heavy Machinery. I don't understand why WWE has to break up tag teams all the time. That's another thing. Like, we have this tag team. It's great. It's working. It's over. People love it. Okay, they're going to fight and break up.
Yeah. Like, I don't like Matt Riddle necessarily as a person either. But I like RK Bro.
RK Bro is one of the best things going on in WWE period right now.
Yeah, and now they're worried because, like, they've lost their tag team championship. Like, what if they break them up? And I was like, I think because of the merch, they'll keep them together for a little bit longer because they're top merch sellers, which is one of the reasons why New Day is still together.
New Day is about a decade old. It was 2013, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
They're almost a decade old. I wish the Big E was back with them. Like, I wish they were at least on the same show.
Yeah.
Not if they didn't. They don't have to wrestle as a tag team together. Like, keep Kofi and Woods as the tag team and Big E as the singles guy, but still keep them as a faction.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken when they were...
They gave us that little, like, hope.
Yeah.
And they ripped it away. And I think they did that to them as well.
Oh, yeah. You can tell that they were... Oh, when... What was it? When they were first doing the draft and Woods was like, what about E? You didn't say E's name. What about E? Like, that, I was like, oh my God, oh, am I going to cry?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, those guys are magic. Like, pure gold.
they rarely miss. The only time they did was with that old day or whatever. What was it?
Oh, yeah.
With Gallows and Anderson, or that's who they were feuding with at the time.
Gallows and Anderson were terrible in WWE.
Yeah,
They were not great. I'm not that impressed with them in AEW either. But,
they haven't been there in a while. I don't know what's going on with Impact and AEW, but it doesn't seem like they're really working together right now.
No, but Impact's working with WWE a little bit. Mickey James going to the Royal Rumble.
I think that is just that they have cut so many people and they need women desperately. When we counted, there's only 19 people in this Rumble right now.
Yeah.
Where are they going to pull another 11 women from? Like,
NXT. I mean, they probably have enough to, like, round it out with, like, bring back some talent. And people are like, oh, they're bringing back too many. I'm like, have you looked at a men's Royal Rumble ever? Like, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And honestly, those were, like, as a kid, those were my favorites. Like, bringing back people, I didn't even know who they were because then I'd ask my dad about it or, like, and now you can just YouTube stuff.
Royal Rumble is fan service. It's always been like a fan service match. It's like the beginning of the year and
Christian and Edge hugged in the ring. I cried. I don't like, wrestling isn't something that I cry during, but I cried at that moment. It was perfect.
I got a little emotional because I was more of an Edge and Christian girl than a Hardy Boys girl. Well, sorry.
I love them both. The Dudleys, I could take them or leave them, but
I did like both of them. I just leaned more towards Edge and Christian than I did the Hardys. And yeah, I was just like, oh my God, they're back together. They're both wrestling. Like, you didn't think either of them would ever wrestle again, and they were both in the ring.
I had such high hopes because it was... I had such high hopes at that point when Christian was there. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I started fantasy booking out my ass. Like, I'm like, Edge and Christian, get Matt Hardy back. And then we're going to have the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian. All my childhood dreams. I'm going to be able to see them in person. Oh, I've seen Edge live. I've seen Christian live. I've seen Matt live. I have not ever seen Jeff. And I want him to be well. I want him to be very well. But I will be so disappointed if I never see him wrestle live.
I think I've seen him. I'm pretty sure the last SmackDown I was at, I did. Because he was back then. And I haven't seen Edge wrestle, but I saw him. It was Raw's 900th episode, and it was here.
Yep.
And he and Undertaker both came.
Yeah.
Christian I saw at Money in the Bank 2013 down in Philly.
Yeah, same.
And I want to say that Jeff, I'm almost positive I remember seeing him there. I don't think I dreamed it. I'll have to look at what the show was that time.
Yeah. I saw one of the first ever live events I went to was when Matt Hardy had been fired and like real life fired and then like brought back, but like he's still fired and he's like coming through the crowd. I was in one of the crowds where he came through and I just lost my ever living mind. Like I lost it. Like I was just so happy to see him. Like I knew it was a word, but I was just like, thank God. Like thank God he's back.
I was always more of a Matt Hardy than a Jeff Hardy girl. I know like all the girls went crazy for Jeff, but I was in love with Matt. Like
I loved both of them, but for very different reasons. Like so back when the internet was new and like websites were like you can make those AOL websites and shit like that. I don't know. I was 12 I think at the time. And you could right now it's very easy to track down people's information, but it became clear to me at 12 years old how easy it was because like just going through like searching information on the Hardy Boys, I found their home address.
No way.
Yeah. And I remember I saw it, I wrote it down, and then I locked it in a drawer, and I left it there because I was just like, some things, like, you don't need to take farther. And, like, I was like, at this point, I think I've hit the end of the internet. I am done with these searches. Because I think I was just, like, searching, like, because he had all this poetry and stuff and, like, all these photos. There are a bunch of pictures out there of the Hardys when they had the tag championships when they were younger, like, naked, holding them in their teeth and stuff.
Oh, my God.
There's lots of stuff you can find on the internet. I mean, also, that shouldn't shock anyone based on the photos Matt does with Rebby.
I don't think I've seen... Are they a little... Okay.
Yeah, it's on Instagram. The one was like, I think it was her, like, it was set up, like, the caption was something like her telling him to come, like, when he got home to fuck her on a pile of money. And it looked like there was money everywhere with his big money Matt gimmick. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he was so upset. But, yeah. So not surprising about Matt Hardy. Their children are going to have so much stuff to be horrified about.
Oh, yeah.
Be horrified about. Not as much as Edge's, but, you know.
Oh. I wasn't watching then, but yeah. I know of the scene.
Yeah. Poor Lita.
Yeah, I remember thinking, like, how did Lita go from like this badass, like, ass kicker chick to basically fucking Edge in the middle of a ring?
Mm-hmm. And then when she left, them throwing her underwear to the crowd. It's amazing she ever came back to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely amazing that she ever came back.
Yeah, there's a good chunk of, it seems like absolute hot garbage of wrestling that I missed when I stopped watching for a while.
Yeah, it was really difficult to be a female or a feminist wrestling fan at various points in WWE history. And it wasn't, I can only say through them because they're the only ones that I watched, but I know garbage was going on in the other companies.
Oh,
like,
probably.
Absolutely. But since we're like almost an hour and a half in, maybe we should end this for today.
Yes.
So we will... Weekly? We're going to do this weekly? Yes? Yeah, we're going to do this weekly. So we will see you all back here next week.
Bye-bye.